Good evening and welcome, friends. Thank you for joining us this evening. My name is Emma Humphreys. I'm with iCivics, and I'm so delighted to be joined today with my friends from Class Companion and from the wider education world. We are here to talk today about going beyond the game. iCivics put games on the map, and AI is going to help us make it easier, better, more accessible, more engaging, more responsive, and all around a better, more effective tool. And that's what we're really excited to talk about today. So for those of you joining, we would love to have you introduce yourselves in the chat, share with us your name, your location, what you teach, your favorite AI tool or use case. I'm Emma Humphreys. I'm in St. Simons Island, Georgia, even though iCivics is headquartered in Cambridge, Massachusetts. I began my career teaching American history and American government in North Central Florida. And right now, I think Class Companion is my favorite AI tool. Really anything that allows me, I should say, to take high quality content and make the instructional experience more seamless for me as the educator and more engaging and more responsive for our students. That's what we are here for. So there I am. That's me, Emma Humphreys. I've been with iCivics since, officially on the record on the payroll since 2016, but I've known about it and been a champion for it since the very beginning. In fact, I was in grad school at the University of Florida, go Gators, studying to be a civic education researcher when my mother cut out a newspaper article from the Miami Herald and mailed it to me, snail mailed it to me. The article said, retired Supreme Court Justice making video games to teach kids about government. She mailed that to me and I thought, yep, I want to be a part of that. And I reached out to iCivics and I've been involved in one way or the other ever since. So really going on about 15 years here, and I'm quite proud of that. So thanks for joining us today. We'll be with you for about an hour, and we have three really simple goals, simple in terms of high level, just what we're trying to do here, but maybe more complex in terms of what it means to actually make it happen. But I don't think so. My goal here is today so that you feel more comfortable and more familiar with iCivics. I suspect a lot of you already are. Feel more comfortable and familiar with Class Companion. I suspect some of you are, but maybe some are new, right? This is a new platform. iCivics has been around for 15 years. That's not the case for Class Companion. This is an exciting, innovative new platform for us to leverage. And ultimately, the idea here is for you to feel inspired and I think more than that, empowered and comfortable using Class Companion to enhance the teaching and learning experience with iCivics. And I want to be clear that Class Companion is a I think is indeed a content agnostic tool. So even though I'm really proud to talk about the ways in which it can enhance teaching and learning with iCivics, I know that it can enhance teaching and learning with a multitude of instructional materials and a multitude of disciplines, not just civics. And what I know is, as a civic educator, as a social studies educator, we've always had to sort of build our own instructional toolkits, pull from every which place to build the most engaging experience for our students. And so that is still true here today. I hope iCivics is something you turn to in your daily toolkit, but I suspect that you're pulling resources from other incredible places like the Library of Congress or the National Constitution Center, the Center for Civic Ed, the Bill of Rights Institute. I could go on and on and on. What matters is that you're taking this high quality content and you're leveraging this incredible AI powered tool, Class Companion, to make the experience better for you and for your students. So for those of you who don't know, aren't as familiar with iCivics as say I am, we were founded by Sandra Day O'Connor, the first female Supreme Court Justice. As she often said, she was proud to be the first. She didn't want to be the last. And so she took very seriously being a good representative on the court. When she retired from the court, she still had some fight left in her, and she decided that her true legacy, her true cause in life, her passion would be to ensure that the next generation was prepared with the knowledge, skills, and dispositions to be effective citizens. We do not come out of the womb knowing how to be citizens in a democracy. And shocking, I know to everyone here, we don't come out of the womb knowing how to use technology or AI, right? We have to figure these things out. And so even if we were born into a generation when these tools exist, and they seem really intuitive, native, we know that we have to learn how to use them and embrace them. And that's part of what we want to do here today. iCivics is nonpartisan, and we are dedicated to advancing civic learning. We are free. We believe we are high quality, easy to implement. We span grade levels. It's all about engaging students in the study of their democracy and the study of our institutions, our history, our processes. I want to acknowledge that that is harder to do today than it's ever been, at least in our lifetimes. And so I'm very grateful for those of you who are showing up every day, to showing up for your students, your communities, your schools, for your democracy, and then showing up for your own professional learning to see, how can I do this better? How can I use tools to help me do this better? So before I turn it over to Avery, before we really dig into the incredible platform that we're exploring today, I just want to say briefly how I think about AI and how iCivics thinks about AI, which are pretty much one and the same. And it's this, right? We're cautious. We came at this like every other educator. We've seen the polls. I look at the polls every day. I see where the teachers are. I see how, let's say, for instance, the latest Pew poll tells me that 96% of educators believe that AI will completely revolutionize the teaching of young people in our country. 97% feel ill-equipped, ill-trained, etc. Right? So I want to acknowledge that we all sort of, we know that this is a big deal. We also aren't getting the support we need. People like Avery, Peter, and myself want to change that. But to be sort of sentimental, inspirational, if you will, I'm going to show a couple of slides to sum up how we view AI. So this quote, you've all seen this before, this inspirational quote: "There is freedom waiting for you on the breezes of the sky, and you ask, what if I fall? Oh, but my darling, what if you fly?" And I think that's how we all sort of feel about AI. And I tweaked it a little bit. I hope you don't mind. I asked, what if they cheat? What if they cheat, right? That's where we all go. We all go to the bad places, the dark places. Yeah, AI is so incredible, but the kids are going to cheat. Well, what if they learn? What if they're inspired? What if they're more engaged in their learning and their learning? And so I want to lean into that. I want to fully acknowledge that, yeah, they're going to cheat. So have I, using AI. I mean, not in any sort of important high stakes way, but yeah, little things here and there, like, oh, let's see what AI has to say. That's okay, because every time I use it, I learn something, and I think the same is true for our students. So I'm so excited to talk today about how we can very intentionally and thoughtfully use this incredible AI technology to enhance, and that's the word you're going to hear me say a lot today, enhance the teaching and learning of civics. And so with that, I'm so honored and delighted to turn it over to my friend, co-founder and CEO of Class Companion, Avery Pan. And if it's helpful, I've stopped sharing. It looks like you're about to reshare. Awesome, perfect, thank you.
Thanks, Emma. I'm just so excited to be here, and I'll allow you guys to not look at that fractal for a moment. I'm so excited to be here, and we just love what iCivics does. And for us, actually, on our website, we had in the early stages this idea of really like the idea of democracy and encouraging the next generation to be able to think for themselves and to make their own decisions. And for us, like our roots have come from that, as well as from really working with teachers to design a platform that helps teachers do what they do best, which is supporting their teachers. So I'd like to give a really brief overview of Class Companion and then really turn over to the educators that have made this possible. So in a nutshell, Class Companion provides one-on-one instruction for every student. And the way that we do that is to provide teacher-guided, AI-powered tutoring, instant feedback, and scoring to increase student engagement and outcomes. The tool is free for teachers, and we will always make that tool free for teachers so that you can bring it to your students wherever you may be in the world. Now, I want to share a little bit about the philosophy of what that one-on-one instruction means for us. So if you could teach every student one-on-one, you would probably answer questions, provide encouragement, use a Socratic method, kind of what you see in this image, if you could only bring that into like a tutoring type of setting. You would also provide instant feedback that's detailed and actionable. And you provide scores that can quantify growth and validate effort. And we know that the real life constraints really crowd in on our ability to realize this more ideal version of instruction. But that's where Class Companion, by providing that teacher-led, AI-powered tutoring, feedback, and scoring, can help make this possible. On the student side, what's really guided our philosophy is that we want to have practice over perfection. And on Class Companion, the idea is that you can give students multiple attempts with instant feedback, which means that students stop fearing failure, focus on their personal best, have less incentive to cheat, and most importantly, build intrinsic motivation and pride. And I think, one educator phrased it really well, where they're like, hey, when you're shooting hoops or when you are practicing a sport, like no one is kind of keeping tabs or keeping points, but that's where really champions are made. And so you're practicing, and then come game time, you're able to perform. And so if we can bring that low stakes, no fear of failure into the classroom environment, that would be fantastic. And now I'm going to switch over and show you really quickly what Class Companion looks like, so that as you listen to our educators, you kind of have this visual, and a couple of our educators are going to actually go into more workflows. But just to begin with, Class Companion brings you together with your students, and there's this AI that sits in the middle. And we look to, as Emma said, amazing content providers and curriculum providers like iCivics. So you can use iCivics curriculum and make it more engaging, make it more interactive, build upon that. This is an example where you could use components of this iCivics, it's actually a DB Quest resource about the Louisiana Purchase. And so this is an assignment meant for Ron Weasley, the student, and you can see it's in progress. So in real time, when you're asking Ron, hey, let's look at this timeline together and answer a question about, how many years in total did each of the nations claim Louisiana? The three components I mentioned can come into play. So first of all, let's say your student doesn't know how to read the timeline, or they need a little bit of encouragement. So Ron might start by first, hey, maybe you can just tell me the answer. So Ron's just going to ask the question back to the AI. But ditto, the AI tutor will say, hey, let's figure this out. Let's look at the timeline together. And maybe your student would be asking clarifying questions, taking some hypothesis and looking for validation and encouragement. And that's where the AI tutor kind of comes in, so that your student could metaphorically come up to your desk and get that support in real time. And the teacher, you're seeing all of this in real time. The second component would be feedback. So Ron is taking his first attempt here, and we get that immediate feedback that is tied to the rubric or the learning objectives of this particular iCivics activity. And so here's that feedback. And this is where you're basically shooting your second hoop. So Ron takes that second attempt, can get feedback again. And then this is actually something that's, a bit different, but you can actually show a ditto's response. So kind of modeling what a response could look like. And then, I'll show briefly, what does this look like for a more extended constructed response? This is more of an essay. And so you can see, hey, the student is asked to pick one of the following questions and answer in the space below. And this time that feedback is more detailed because the rubric is more detailed. And then that last piece I mentioned, which is the instant scoring, is something that you can turn on or off, just like the AI tutor. And here that instant scoring is showing the students' growth as they make that second attempt while incorporating the feedback. So I'll stop sharing now, but I'm really glad to kind of bring it back over and turn it to Emma and Peter.
Yeah, and Peter, I'm thinking about playing around with this a little bit, putting you on the spot. So I'm going to go ahead and share screen because I like to, keep it.
Okay.
Hold on one second. Here it is. Share slideshow. Don't mind my really impressive graphic design skills here, but I thought okay, I'm going to make it so we have iCivics on one side and Class Companion on the other, and when you draw that line, it's going to be a smile. We should be smiling. How are our colleagues using iCivics and Class Companion together? And I thought, just to break the ice, Peter, if it makes sense for me to turn it to you, if it doesn't, I will follow your lead and turn it to someone else. But What do you think? Do you want to go ahead and dive in now, or shall I turn it over to some colleagues?
Yeah, I think it's a good time for me to step in there and just give some idea of how this platform, from a teacher standpoint, how Class Companion can enhance the iCivics games. And you
but
mentioned
before
that,
I stop presenting and turn it over, sorry, this is totally unscripted, friends, but I have to just take a second to say that I've known Peter for a lot of years. Peter is not shy. Peter is passionate about his work. And when I think about the earliest enthusiastic adopter of AI as a social studies teacher,
oh yeah,
so the day I die, Peter Paccone will come to mind. And so this little bio here on the screen could be about 7 pages long. I kept it straight, like I kept it really tight around his work around AI. But at a time when all of us were either scared or unsure or just too busy or overwhelmed to even know where to start, Peter dove right in, probably because he's recently retired and a man of leisure, so he's got the time to do it. And my understanding is he spends most of his time, on the beach, reading books and this and that. But about 5 minutes a day, he thinks about AI and teaching social studies. So thank you for your leadership on this topic. And I genuinely, I mean that, and I appreciate it. I'm going to stop sharing screens so that you can share and show everyone what you've been doing with AI and with Class Companion.
I have a great personal friend who also is a former board member at the San Marino Unified School District where I taught and retired from, and no sooner did AI launch than she called me up and she said, you need to lean in. And that's the end of that story. Lean in, if not outright embrace. She's been my mentor, and so I took the suggestion. What I want to do for you guys today is I'm going to first of all share my screen here, share screen, and the dashboard. So from a teacher's end, you create an account, and this is my Class Companion account. So what I want to show you is how Class Companion can enhance the iCivics games. And by enhance, we used that word earlier. What I mean is make the games more interesting, more informative, more engaging. I've been a fan of, as Emma said, Class Companion for forever, and also, of iCivics forever. And I use them in my classroom. I recognize, how valuable they are. Even in the AP government class, I couldn't believe the extent to which my students embraced the games there. That really caught me by surprise, but they still do. So how can we even kick that up higher? Well, this is the dashboard. So here are the classes either that I teach or tutor. And if we go scroll down here to the end, we're going to see a class that I've just created. Let's assume that I'm an 8th grade U.S. history teacher here in California, colonial era to Reconstruction. So I've created the class. Now I haven't added the students, but I could. I'm going to click on this link here, and it's going to take me to this next page where up at the top I have insights, assignments. My students would be listed here. Once I create the assignments and they submit, they'd be listed here, and all kinds of controls over the settings. So again, I want to show you how we can use Class Companion to enhance iCivics. I'm going to create an assignment. I'm going to add an assignment. Click on the box over here. I get 3 choices. Generate with AI. I can import an assignment that I already have, or I can go to the content library. Now, we don't have anything in there, I don't think, at the moment that would be work in this regard, but I can see very short period of time where that just might happen. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to generate with AI. I'm going to click on that. Now I'm going to say to myself, well, what game do I want to enhance? Or I could also say, what resource? Oh boy, it doesn't have to be the game. And for the sake of this little exercise, I'm going to assume, because 8th grade, colonial history onwards, I'm going to assume that I want my kids to play that game, Branches of Power. So you can see up here, 8th grade, standard, California content, the whole choice, a number of them you can choose from, U.S. history. A little confusing here, it says objective. This is not like objectives like we think of when, at least when I first started teaching 40 years ago. That meant a very specific thing. It just means, what do you want to do? So I want to check for my students' understanding of what they were supposed to have learned by playing the game Branches of Power. So I'm simply going to say, give me, and now a number, 5, 10, let's just say 5 multiple choice questions designed to check my students' understanding, and I can spell badly and AI will correct it, understanding of the game, let's even put that in there, of the iCivics game, Branches of power. Now, what do I do next? I've got to make sure it understands what branches of power is. So whenever you play an iCivics game, if you're familiar with those, you'll see on the page where you access the game, there are student and teacher PDFs. There's PDFs that the teacher can use to help the teacher develop lesson plans, and then also handouts for the students. So you just save those. Save those to your desktop in the form of a PDF. It's real easy. Click on them, they go right to your PDF. I'm going to drag those PDFs, student packet, teacher packet, into where it says context files. And then all I'm going to do is press the generate and review button. And though it takes a few seconds and gives you a few comments as it goes along, building the Transcontinental Railroad, history teacher, if I recall, I think that was a 6-year process, up it comes. Here's the assignment. So we've got the title, Understanding the iCivics Game Branches of Power. 8th grade, all lines up here. There's an introduction. Everything can be changed. I can read that introduction. I can say to myself, oh, I'm good to go with that. I can change it around. It's AI, no problem. But now let's just look at the questions. What is the primary role of the legislative branch in the iCivics Game Branches of Power? The game teaches that content. As someone who tutors kids for this class, I know this is a good question. There's your choices. There's the correct answer. We scroll down. In the game, how can the executive branch influence the legislative branch? Another good question, certainly one that I would want my students to know in that class, and linking to what the game taught, all because I plugged in the student and teacher PDF packets. It's reading that PDF. Same thing here. Which branch of government is responsible for interpreting the laws in the iCivics game, and so on and so on. Easy as can be. And now let's just go up here for a second and say, well, I wonder what that looks like from the student standpoint. So we're going to press preview as student. There we go. Oops, sorry. Come on. There it is. Now let's take that first question. Okay. I'm just going to say, what is the primary goal of the legislative branch? Oh, I know. I taught government forever. Legislative branch is to interpret laws and ensure they are constitutional. And the student submits. And look what comes up. Analyzing, and then finally your question score. It looks like you chose the option related to interpreting laws, which is actually the primary role of the judicial branch. That's the kind of feedback that the student can get. Make it better than that. See this little thing down here, little green icon button? Well, that's what Class Companion calls Ditto. It says right there, I'm Ditto, your AI tutor. This is the student view. Chat with me to explore this topic. Ask for hints or get help. I may make mistakes, so double check what I say. I can, as a student, I can plug in there. I'm not going to do it because in the interest of time, I want to move on to a few other things. But basically, that is how we're going to check for understanding. We can do it with SAQs as well. I can put into that objectives box, give me 3 SAQs. I can go better than that. I can say, make sure each SAQ begins with the phrase, briefly describe one. And then the questions will come back. One major difference between the executive branch and the legislative branch, or something like that. I can even have all of this translated into Spanish. The quiz can come across in Spanish, in multiple choice, and the SAQs. I assign to the student simply by publishing. They access it on their computer, and when they do, they get instant feedback, and then I also get insights, so that by the time they have clicked that submit button, within just a second or two, they know what they got correct, what they missed, but so do I. Talk about a power. And I want to just leave it right there, not go into any more detail. I just want to give you a quick overview and then say that we should probably hear from the others. But that is how I believe Class Companion, one major way, how Class Companion can be used to make the games, and as I said earlier, also the resources. I think you're going to hear from a teacher here a little bit later, or if she's made it, she might not. but she was just using the resources, taught it, and then plugged the PDF of the resource in and turned it into a check for understanding. Emma, you want to take it back over?
I do, and I want to explain the faces I've been making, and what you can't see or feel is like how the the fleshness in my that I feel as you present this. It reminds me of the first time I saw iCivics. Mm-hmm. It reminds me of, and teachers don't judge me because this was 10 years ago, the first time I used Canvas to teach online at the University of Florida. Now, mind you, I was moving from Blackboard and Moodle to Canvas, and I remember seeing the capability and the features of Canvas, and I said to everyone, I'm like, it feels like Christmas morning. Like it's just doing what I didn't even ask it to do, but what I need it to do. And when I look at Class Companion and how you're leveraging it to make iCivics better, I feel that same way. When a technology is just right and it's providing you with what you need, and in many cases what you didn't even know you needed, it just feels so right and so good. So thank you for that. And yeah, so we're gonna continue on here. I'm gonna put my screen back up. Again, my really impressive graphics here. It's like the people from Amazon are gonna sue me for intellectual copyright, making a smile out of a line here. But yeah, I want to keep talking about how our colleagues are using iCivics and Class Companion. I'm going to talk with someone who so I'm not able to see who is here today. So my understanding is that Krista wasn't able to join us, but if she's here and chimes in, all the better. But I love her story, because what we have here is a group of people who reached out to Peter, or Peter reached out to them. And no one here is an expert, right? This is such a new technology. So for instance, I'm very proud of myself that I learned how to drive a stick during the pandemic in the year 2020. It's my one pandemic accomplishment, and I just couldn't be more proud. But it's not like I'm an expert on driving a stick shift. Stick shift driving, manual car transmissions have been around since Henry Ford put out his Model T. So not impressive. What's so cool about folks today is that this is so new. This is such a new technology that even if it's your first time using it, if you have the guts to raise your hand and say, yeah, I tried it and it worked, then you're an expert. So there's that, that fear of failure. I just don't think it exists here. But I love Krista's story, an 8th grade American history teacher. So 2 weeks, like just 2 weeks ago, Peter reached out and she's like, all right, well, here's the thing. I regularly place iCivics games like Branches of Power, Win the White House, and Becoming a Citizen into Google Classroom for students to access when they finish their work early, which for me is just wild and amazing, because when I started teaching in 2002, this was not even an option. But then wait, it gets better. While I was already familiar with Class Companion, I never thought of pairing it with iCivics. So I gave it a go. So this is a woman, no expert, 2 weeks ago, trying it for the first time. She used the Generate Assignment with AI feature to create 10 multiple choice questions related to the iCivics game Branches of Power. She can't come back and report yet how well it worked, how the students respond, but she was amazed at the quality of the questions and how easy it was to create and assign them. And I'm very grateful for her words here and the specificity and intention with which she writes them. She was surprised by the quality, right? I think all of us have experience playing around with ChatGPT, doing silly stuff. The first couple of times you're like, oh, this is garbage, right? Garbage in, garbage out. Well, the beautiful thing about taking high quality content on a really powerful AI generated platform like Class Companion, it's not garbage in, garbage out. It's gold in, gold out, thanks to this world-class platform that is Class Companion. So she's looking forward to doing the same with other iCivics games. She thinks the kids will be excited. That instant feedback, right? These are things that we just cannot provide when we, why do I have to explain it, right? We've got 30 kids, a million preps, a million other things to do. We can't provide the type of instant feedback that Class Companion is capable of providing. Now, I'm so bummed that Brian is not here today. Brian was planning to be here at the last minute, couldn't join us. But the reason I was so excited about Brian is because Brian is an elementary level teacher. He teaches 4th grade social studies. The majority, I'm talking 98% of his students are English language learners. He is, he's doing the best he can in the not easiest scenario. And he started using Class Companion this year, and in his words, absolutely fell in love with it. And so he talks about the use cases, right? The ways in which it's been really powerful for him in terms of enhancing his instruction. And again, you see me using this word enhance, enhance, enhance. The picture, the gentleman you see on your screen is a world-class teacher. He's a master teacher. But we can all be better. We can all have our lives be easier for us, and we can all allow opportunities for our students to get better just-in-time feedback, and that's what Class Companion does. So AI-powered writing support, personalized feedback and insights, engaging prompts and challenges, and this is, I mean, right here, this is it right here, right? The piece de resistance, seamless integration with learning tools. We know how clunky instructional technology is and has been, and I say that raising my hand as a very proud member of the iCivics team. As high quality and engaging as our resources are, as innovative as they are, it can be so hard to integrate those resources sometimes with other platforms, and Class Companion makes it seamless. That's something, and that speaks to the power of AI and to what happens when really thoughtful, clever, innovative people like Avery figure out how to leverage it for the betterment of education and educators. I think Adam's here. So I would love, I'm new to this platform we're using. I'm going to stop screen sharing, hoping that Adam can jump in. Yes. All right. So let me stop there. Adam, I'm so glad you're here. And I would love for you to share with folks how you've used Class Companion to leverage AI. I know you told us about using the game, the iCivics game Neighborhood Good, but you're welcome to talk about that or anything else. I know the audience is really thrilled to hear your perspective.
Yeah, good evening. Can everybody hear me okay? My name is Adam Kubey. I teach in the Bay Area of California, and I am a English language learner teacher. So we have a new Bridge Newcomer program at our school district this year that is for students who are new to the United States who English is their second language. Some of them, actually, we just had a student start yesterday, and so English is new to them, iCivics is new to them, and they were just excited to get started. So I've been teaching with iCivics for a while. I teach government and economics, but most broadly social studies, and I've been using the Class Companion in the context of supporting my English language learners. So we were playing the game Neighborhood Good today, actually, and I wanted to use Class Companion to do a couple activities for me today. First, do a check for understanding, because before we played the game, I wanted to make sure they understood all the instructions I had been speaking in English. We did use the iCivic packet, which has English and in Spanish, but I wanted to make sure to see how much of what they understood from what I was saying and the iCivics material. So we did a check for understanding before they played the game, and I could see how much of the instructions, and actually the Class Companion gave some students some feedback, like, you answered this question on one of the multiple choice questions. Did you think of it this way? Which is about food insecurity. And the student was kind of confused on what food insecurity meant and maybe what it meant with like groceries. So they were a little confused. So it helped them figure it out so that when they played the game, they understood what food insecurity was and what the difference was. So then when we played the game, they went ahead and played it and used they could switch from Spanish to English during the game, but then afterwards they were able to use the Class Companion to do an assessment, and they had the assessment both in English or in Spanish, which some of the students who they're moving more towards English because they've been here a little longer, they chose the English version, and it gave them feedback in English. Some of the students that English is still tough for them, they read the questions in English, but they typed the questions in Spanish. The feedback was in Spanish so that they could help them resubmit their questions and do that. And then the students who the student who just got here yesterday, Spanish only, she chose to take the exam and all in Spanish, and all the feedback was in Spanish, and used the ditto to help her in Spanish. The other part that I was really having trouble in Class Companion could help and give instant feedback was reflecting on the game. I wanted the students to write free response questions on how they were reflecting to the game, because the game Neighborhood Good is not an easy game to understand. You having to interview people, decide how to address a neighborhood problem, and then get a score which tells you how well or how you chose to address the neighborhood good. So I was really looking forward to that, but I don't have time to read those right away. So I posted I gave the assignment, added the packet, and said, give me 4 reflection questions about the game that connects to the larger theme of the game, which is addressing a neighborhood issue and trying to solve it. It gave them 4 questions, and then they wrote that. As I was walking around, it was at the end of the period, I wasn't able to see what everybody wrote. But what I saw is students submitted their answers, and I gave it, one of the cool things, you could upload a rubric, or you could have the assessment create its own rubric to assess it based on the criteria that you want, which I wanted to be reading, writing, and kind of understanding the concepts of the game. Based on that rubric, it gave the students some feedback and scores, and the student didn't want to leave the class. He was like, okay, it told me that I needed to do this with I want to resubmit. So the student wanted to resubmit it. Another student was having trouble, whether it was a language issue or just understanding the game, and it used the ditto, and he was kind of talking back and forth. So it gave individualized support as I was walking around the room to try to help support students, but it allowed the students to kind of get the support they needed without having to raise their hand and call me over and kind of draw attention to themselves when they might not have known the answer. And then at the end of the class period, after students had left, I looked at the results, and it was actually really interesting to see the feedback it was giving the students on the responses. It was very thoughtful. It was both in their language, if they chose to write in Spanish or in English, and it helped the student resubmit, and then it gave them an updated grade. So it was really cool to see all of this feedback happening from my EL students, which I am new to teaching EL students this year, specifically EL ones. And this helped give the game that I've been using in other classes, give them access, connect it to other lessons that we've been doing too. I could add those things too. And it was just really cool to have all of that in 3 different portions of my class, really easy for students to access, go and do it. And then I could see all that work on the back end, and then meet with the students. I will meet with them Thursday based on their results and kind of give them feedback, and we will revisit.
I don't even know where to start. So thank you for that, Adam. There's 2, but I think there's 2 things I really want to home in on based on what you said. The first thing that really jumps out at me is we talk a lot about iCivics secret sauce to making games. There's sort of 4 P's. We have purpose, practicality, playability. And when we say playability, what we mean is that it's fun and that the student would want to play it again. And so we're really proud of the fact that we can see in our metrics that the kid is assigned the game at school, and then they go home and they want to play it again, get a higher score. What you just said about the student not wanting to leave class because of an assessment, because of reflection questions, sure, based on a game, they weren't asking to stay to play the game again. They were asking to stay to get the question right because they were getting feedback. This platform was talking to them and as individual. Am I understanding that correctly? I mean, to me, that sounds like
So the
replayability, like they wanted to stay.
Yeah, we played the game twice in class. They played it individually, and then we played it as a class. And we were having them, but the assessment was individual. They wanted to show that they knew what was going on in the game when they played it individually, and what they understood of what we discussed as we played the game together. So that student really wanted to show that they understood the concepts of the game and connected it to the larger overall theme of the game. And that was really cool to see that student really wanted to show their knowledge, also their English ability, right? They could type it in English.
So what you're seeing, folks who are watching, is like a real-time Emma epiphany that I'm realizing this in the moment, that the parallels between AI and the feedback it can offer and games is very much there. So we say games too. The student wants to play a game. They want to get the higher score. They want to prove that they get it. Here they are, because they're not getting frustrated. That's another thing about game-based learning, that a lot of the frustration is removed because the game guides the student through the learning experience. What you're telling me is that because of Class Companion, that frustration, the students are getting the feedback they need. They don't have to wait, Mr. Kubey, or a classmate whose English is better, who can come in and help them. They're getting that feedback right there, and then they want to show what they know. That is the perks of game-based learning, just 101. So
I just want to add
I'm
two more
really
things.
taken. Yeah, go ahead,
Yeah,
please.
one, I was new to Class Companion. I just jumped in and I was like, okay, let me figure this out. It was so easy to use. I can create the check for understanding, the assessment, and the reflection, and use the rubric creator. And it was easy for the students to use too. They didn't like go, oh, I don't know how to log in. I don't know how to get to this. It's not working very well, which other programs that I've used has, and they just jumped right in, and it was turnkey. It just worked right away.
No, that's incredible. And it also speaks to the power of having these types of webinars where you have the practitioners in the room, because Avery and I can talk, and Peter too, till we're blue in the face about here's what it can do. But hearing you, Adam, and I know we're going to hear from others in a second, talk about what that means for the student, how that impacts the student learning experience is something that Avery, I don't know about you, I'm not in classrooms every day as much as I wish I could be, right? So this is invaluable. Something else I want to share, which is a little bit more on a sentimental note, Adam, as you talked about your English language learners and some who got here just literally last week. Being from South Florida, I've experienced that a lot. And one of my favorite stories to tell is about, I don't know if you all remember, I think it was 2017-18, NCSS was in San Francisco. I know my California people remember because it's like the one time every 6 years they don't have to fly all the way to the East Coast. So it was in San Francisco. It was a great conference. I was there for the whole time. I took the red eye from San Francisco to Miami, had my Uber take me to a Starbucks so I could get a coffee, change out of my sweats into a business outfit, and went to a school in Miami Lakes where Justice Sonia Sotomayor, a member of the iCivics board, would be visiting to talk to the students and then visiting some of the Spanish-only immersive classes. So the justice is there. She's very inspiring. The kids are just so taken with her. She gives a great speech. And then she, of course, always says, I want to go see the teachers. I want to go be in a classroom. I want to see the kids. So we take her into this classroom, Spanish only. These are all, I would say about 95% native Spanish, English language learners, most of whom have only been in the States for a few months to a year. So we come in the room, the teacher has assigned either Do I Have a Right or Immigration Nation, because at the time, those were the only two iCivics games that had been translated into Spanish. And as you referred to, right, the student could toggle between the two options. So we're in there, these students are in these sort of mixed ability pairs. The teacher was this master teacher and had it all set up just right. And she points to us and she says, look over there, there's two young men. She says, the one to the right, he's been here for about 7 or 8 months, and he's about ready to move out of this class into a class that has English only instruction. But I paired him with this young man whose first day of class was 2 days ago. So the kid got here from Cuba on Friday, had the weekend, joined her class on Monday. Here we are on a Wednesday or Thursday, I don't remember. And they chose Do I Have a Right? And so here they are, these two students playing this game about the US Constitution. This one student who has only been in this country for 5 days, playing it in his native language and just animated and so into it. And the teacher said, that young man hasn't said a word for 3 days, and here he is. And to see then Supreme Court Justice, the first female Latina Supreme Court Justice, to walk up to this young man and put her hand on his shoulder and say, tell me what you're doing, tell me what you're learning. And he pauses and she says, again in Spanish, she says to him, and sorry, I don't speak Spanish, it's okay, tell me in Spanish. And I'm in the back, I'm crying. The teacher's wiping away the tears. I share this because when I think about that story, I always thought that's something only a game could do. And only with the Supreme Court Justice in the room in this incredible, perfect, kismet, magical situation. But we're seeing now is that AI can do this too. And I remember training to be a teacher and training for all the types of students I knew I would encounter, including English language learners, and just feeling like there's nothing this College of Education can teach me that'll prepare me to fully serve students who do not speak the language and I don't speak theirs. And then I see games and I see AI and I see this thoughtful platform like Class Companion. You put these things together, and I hope I'm not overstating, in my mind, because I'm, forever the optimist, it's magical. But if nothing else, it's just really powerful and effective and should convince us all to say, yeah, I'm in, let's try this.
I just wanted to chime in to add that I think that what you described so well, Emma, is kind of how games allow us to approach vulnerability but be confident and to be able to share that with their group. And I think that that's kind of been a common thread with like learning experiences that you've described, Adam, where it's like for these students, I mean, they kind of put themselves out there every day. And sometimes we forget. I think it's easy to forget what that was like for us in the classroom. And for them to not know, but then to also not have to necessarily, you know, raise their hand or identify themselves, but get a moment of kind of like, you know, safe, be able to ask questions safely, be able to get someone's like attention and be like, yeah, like, you know, like I care about you. I can respond to you in this moment. And then for them to then come back and engage with that group. Because, you know, I think that ultimately what we're learning is like the interactions with their classmates, the interaction with you as a teacher, Adam, are really like, I think the magic of iCivics games coming to life, but then kind of the AI sprinkled on top allows them to kind of be able to better approach that vulnerability and stay in that interaction loop and stay engaged without having to step out.
Thank you for that. I mean, we're all confident adults who will pause to ask a question because we don't want to sound stupid, right? And then we expect a young person or you know, a seventh grader, goodness, to have the guts to raise their hand. And with AI, it's done so privately. Adam, I saw you go off mute. I'm sorry to cut you off.
Yeah, for sure. And I think that they feel more comfortable when we do a bigger, larger discussion or assessment, having practiced their language, practice their asking their questions with the tools, getting the feedback. And then when we do either make a connection to another lesson or have a larger discussion about the game or are playing it as a group, they feel much more confident having had that interaction with kind of somebody that doesn't is going to help them, support them, and make them feel more confident.
Here. Thank you so much for that. Now, again, this is a little tricky. I feel like I'm flying a little blind here. I'm not sure who's in the room, but Adam, thank you so much for all of that. Andrew, I'm not sure if you're here, if you're able to jump on. Yes. Oh, Daymade. I would love for you to share your experiences using Class Companion to leverage or leveraging Class Companion and iCivics games. My favorite game, Immigration Nation. And I will pause and turn it over to you.
Oh, we've been doing Immigration Nation for a long time, so it's been really great to see what we can do with it by leveraging some new sources. So I'm Andrew Marone. I teach seventh grade social studies in Southwest Connecticut. That's me a lot of hair ago. Really what I've seen with using Immigration Nation and Class Companion has been a way to just make everything richer. And the most important thing from my perspective is the way that we can do more with less time and really be able to focus on getting deeper with the kids and their understanding. So, you know, much like Peter was talking about with the different ways that you can set up assignments, what I've done with Immigration Nation, the kids will play it. I gave them a short answer set of questions to check on content, where the rubric associated with that was all really kind of just focusing in on content from the game, along with a study that we do on immigration history, whether it's immigration to Ellis Island or the impacts of the Great Migration, so that they can start kind of bridging some of those connections together. And you know, getting that real-time feedback on the content, I think was really, really key for a lot of them to get that better understanding in the moment. Those kids that were kind of right on the precipice of being able to draw those connections, having that immediate real-time feedback that the algorithm was able to provide made a huge difference. So, you know, similar to what Adam had mentioned about, you know, a student having a question about food security and what it all means. I had a student who submitted a response that was focusing in on the impact of the 14th Amendment, timely topic. And they had, you know, coming off of our Great Migration study, they had lumped them all in. All the Reconstruction amendments were lumped in. And the algorithm kind of took them through and said, hey, you did a great job identifying that grouping of amendments. But it's also important to remember that it was the 14th and not the 13th. And it was really interesting because it also mirrored a lot of what we do in our building regarding social emotional learning and DBT, to be able to say, you did this great, and there's something else you can focus in on. And that really kind of resonated with the kids as a way to be able to get into the content much further. And meanwhile, at the same time, one of the things that I've been using Class Companion for a lot is on student metacognition and self-reflection. So to be able to think more about their thinking and basically use you know, Class Companion as a prod to get them to really kind of question their thinking a little bit more and to see how that progression develops over time. So within the same assignment, they wrote a longer answer question where they had to go back into the class companion game, take one of those stories from the folks on the boat in Immigration Nation. I told them specifically, take one of the ridiculous ones, because as anyone who has played some iCivics games know, there are some very entertaining stories that some of the avatars choose to share to highlight some of these different issues. Whether it's in Immigration Nation or Do I Have a Right? And really what they had to do was to take that, find some kernel of it that sparked something, some thought process in them, and then really kind of delve into that thinking a little bit more. So to take something that, maybe, oh, well, I turned this person away because their story was ridiculous, but here was a thing in there that made me think about something. And then working with the algorithm in tandem, they were able to probe that thinking a little bit further and figure out, well, here's how I got to that resonating with me. And here's now the connection I'm making back to the content. And now I'm able to track me as the teacher, but also them as the student can then see in real time that progression of their thinking through their writing, to have that artifact of that progression right there in front of them. So that's been really kind of the two-prong approach that I've taken a look at using with Immigration Nation in general, but really with a lot of the different resources from iCivics, or just some of the resources that we use in general to really kind of do a couple things at once. And Avery, I think you touched on this, but one of the biggest takeaways that I have had from this is that the games like iCivics offers have always been a great discussion point with the students, to be able to have an ability to talk about the content in a way that's meeting them where they're at. They're 7th grade students. They love games. They love competition. So that's really always been a great point to be able to have that, that point of entry in the discussions with the kids. But adding in the AI component with Class Companion has made those conversations that much richer, because then we also have these artifacts that we can go back to when we have those conversations, where a kid says, oh, I get it. You want my first attempt next time to look like my last attempt did this time, to see how they're building those skill sets in tandem with the content and in tandem with, what we're trying to get across in terms of some of the, more transferable skill sets in terms of analytic writing or what have you. And that way they're not only internalizing it, but they're able to talk about it with me and talk about it with each other, so that after enough time having done these different kind of like reflective rubrics, kid raises his hand, makes a point in class, someone else asks him, but how did your thinking start there? And one yells from the back, you class companioned him. So it's interesting to see how all of this starts to coalesce together. And for me, for a lot of this, the starting point is the game. That's the point of entry. We're a one-to-one building, so all the kids have that access right there in front of them, and it's serving as that gateway for them to be able to engage more with the content, engage more with me, and engage more with each other, which for a social studies classroom, you can't really ask for much more than that. When you're walking 7th graders through the intricacies of modern immigration policy. So I am forever indebted to Immigration Nation for being around for basically as long as I've been in my building to help give that spark for some of the kids. And I am just really excited because we are just getting to the point on the work now. I did have a student who was willing to be kind of like my guinea pig subject, because I haven't done it with kind of like the most recent iteration of what Class Companion is quite yet. So I leveraged the last couple of days of feature access on a couple of things. I asked Ditto to respond to my students using some Gen Z slang so they can feel really proud of all the riz they're bringing to the table, and really find new ways to, again, meet them where they're at on all of this. And I'm really excited about having the ability to add some more information in on my end to exert a little bit more control on my side of things, to be able to then reach them and have them work with the material on a number of different levels. So that's really exciting. That's coming up end of the week this week as we come back from our February break. So I'm looking forward to seeing how that looks. I'm looking forward to continuing to bother my peers about getting in on the AI train. It's been, as I'm sure some of you are probably familiar with, for those of you that are really kind of working with this stuff and really in the weeds, it can be an uphill battle. But there are always those kernels that you can find meaningful to you, and then that meaning kind of spreads out amongst the people that you work with and the kids that you're helping navigate through their education.
Andrew, I did not have metacognition on my bingo card for today, and here we are, right? It's like, yeah, come for the, individualized feedback, stay for your students actually thinking about their thinking. And then to see Avery say like, yeah, we're thinking about that a lot. And I'm going, that didn't even occur to me until Andrew just said it. Am I that dim? But it makes so much sense. And it just, while we sit here, so, not us here, right? But like so many of us, so many people are afraid or cautious about AI, and you're like, we are leveling up the learning and the critical thinking without even trying, just with, leveraging this incredible technology.
And for me too, that was a way to kind of lower the barrier to entry for some of my colleagues, even who were a little bit leery about going down the road
Sure.
of figuring out ways to incorporate AI, and especially with the kids too, because Peter, I think you had shown how you can kind of like hide those scores and whatnot. When the kids get so wrapped up in the scores and the grading portal of it all, being able to have some feedback that is, it's immersed in the content, but it's so skills based, where the kids are then feeling like they're having a conversation with multiple different support systems, whether they be in person or whether they be on the screen. It eases them in to this platform and to this world in a way that's going to help them find the meaning. So they're not looking at it saying, oh no, this computer is grading me, what is it going to do? They're actually reading and saying, all right, so I get this. This piece of feedback I don't think I can really work with, so I'm going to try to do this instead. And seeing them have those conversations, with their peers, to have them asking me that, like that to me has been that biggest kind of like starting block that so many people can really look to find ways to make the technology work with them rather than work for them, or have the students feel like it's giving them that kind of leg up and having the technology do the work on their behalf rather than in tandem with all of us.
Yeah, it's their learning partner. I love it. Thank you. Thank you so much for that. Again, without knowing sort of who's behind the screen, I'm going to just keep moving us along here. And I am aware of the time, so I will keep us moving. I'm going to actually, Felicia, I don't think Felicia's here. She was going to share her story. Okay. But just briefly, that she uses Do I Have a Right, Argument Wars, Court Quest, some of my favorite games here, of course, Immigration Nation first, then Do I Have a Right. But she's been really happy with how she can use the generated assignment with AI feature to create reflection questions. And, this is working at the IB level. And then again, the instant feedback to students based on their responses. So I love her enthusiasm. I'm going to jump ahead right here to Bonnie. Bonnie, I know you only have a few minutes left, but if you're able to join us, if you can share screen, I am all for it. I'm going to stop sharing. So hopefully
we also have Jeff, Emma. Jeff's here too, I think.
You
Jeff's,
got it. Yep. I'm gonna keep us moving and then get everyone to bed on time. Bonnie, are you able to jump in?
I don't think Bonnie was able to make it. Is she here?
Oh yeah, she is. So I saw a comment from her. But I don't know if she's like linked in to share her screen.
I think Bonnie might be trying to re-enter with a different link.
Okay, so I'm gonna
move on to
Jeff. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go back to present here while Bonnie gets in. But Bonnie, I'm so glad you're here, and we're just gonna jump quickly to Jeff. Jeff, how about this? All right, this is the best picture I could find, and it's such a great picture because with our friend Kevin. But I wanted to be really clear about who's who. So I'm going to stop presenting and let you jump in, and then Bonnie will be in, and we'll get Bonnie the link she needs, and then she can present, and we're in business.
So a little bit about Indiana is we're required by law to cover the election 2 weeks prior to the election. Every social studies class at every grade level. So the Win the White House one was the one that I had been working with for a while, and so I did it with all my teachers this year, to have all the social studies teachers do it. But we use Class Companion to extend. So first we use formative assessments, which we already talked about, but extend it beyond for older kids so that they could go deeper. So we used the feature that Peter showed, bringing in the PDFs, but we brought in current news stories about the elections. We brought in commercials from the candidates and their transcriptions so that they could ask questions about the commercials within Class Companion. So we use Class Companion as much more of an extension with immediate feedback to give ladders to different students based upon their capabilities. I've been using Class Companion for a while, and my students, you know, if I don't do it in Class Companion, they'll ask me, why can't we do that in Class Companion? So they like the immediate feedback, and this worked out really well to be able to do an extension where people were being pushed but didn't feel uncomfortable to give wrong answers that you might have given in sort of a discussion oriented session. So that's what we used it for, and it worked out really, really effectively for that.
That is so great. I'm really grateful that you shared the point about the students saying, like, can we just do this? Why isn't this in Class Companion? Can we do it in Class Companion? We've heard the stories for our entire existence of kids walking in the room and going, we're doing iCivics today. And I'm sensing the same feeling when they realize that they're going to be on Class Companion, that they're going to have a better, more engaging learning experience that you feel good about, that they feel good about. And let's see, I don't know if Bonnie's able to jump in here. But I'm going to go ahead and share my screen where hopefully she can. But one second.
If she can't get in, I'll share what she was going to say. Yeah, because
are you comfortable doing so? Yeah, I know.
Yeah,
we're sort of a couple minutes past the hour, and I'm so sorry, but I'm so grateful for Bonnie's perspective. You know, and so Peter, if you're comfortable sharing it, I think we're all ears.
Yeah, it was great. Bonnie too had not yet worked with Class Companion and iCivics together, and really went a long way to testing out the extent to which you could take one of the resources, not one of the games, but one of the PDF resources. So Korematsu, tell me if I'm wrong, Emma, but it's not a game, right? It's a lesson plan.
Just a lesson plan. Yep.
Mm-hmm. And you know, she taught the lesson plan. Let me see if I have all this right. So she taught the lesson plan. Then she did then she imported the PDF of the lesson plan into Class Companion. It produced the needed check for understanding questions. Then she went ahead and taught some more about rights and this and that. Is that Bonnie? Oh, there she is. Bonnie, I'm telling you a story. Yeah.
Hey, well, I hope you did a good job. Can you hear me?
Hi, Bonnie.
Okay. Hey, y'all. I am so sorry. I didn't know there was a separate link. I've never been on one of these.
No, totally okay.
Well, first, I wanted to start off by saying, very grateful for this program. As far as Sandra Day O'Connor, hello, I'm in Arizona, and Sandra Day O'Connor is the one who helped start Kids Vote in Arizona, and I was on the pilot committee in 1986, and I still have the little stapled booklet, so I've been around for a while. I am super excited about this whole program. I started off with the Korematsu. Well, I started with Peter giving me information. I thought, all right, well, we just finished reading this story. It's called Invisible Thread. It's about Japanese Americans internment. And I thought, oh, okay. And so Peter's like, well, have you looked at Korematsu on iCivics? And I was like, no, let's look at that. And went into it. And now, is it possible for me to share from this? I don't want to keep up time, so I don't want to cause an issue.
I think so. Do you see present as an option at the bottom of your screen?
I do. Okay. There's a good thing. Share screen. All right. This could be exciting. I think this might work. And if it doesn't, share screen. Let's just go the entire screen. Who knows what you people are going to see? Let's just do it.
That's always risky, Bonnie.
Let's just do it. We don't need to do whatever. It's all.
Let's see what shopping Bonnie was doing.
Everything's fine. I don't even know what you people are going to see. 53 copies of us. Okay, what I wanted to share with you is, first of all, went into the Korematsu. I took this information. Can you see the screen I'm showing you, the Korematsu? Can you guys hear me?
We sure do. Yep, we see it.
Okay, I've got.
Oh wait, hold on.
Were you able to
just
see the
stay on that
Korematsu?
screen. Yep, there you go. Go back
Okay,
to that tab.
Okay,
Perfect.
all right. Well, I just wanted to show you that I was doing it, but Peter already had it up. So we talked about this. I went in and said, okay, I want to make an assignment. So I pulled up and said, okay, give me 5 multiple choice questions that tell me the kids read the thing. And so, by the way, I've done a number of them. My very first one I started on my own was, it took me an hour and a half of a conversation that I was having with Ditto, and we basically solved the historical conflict in the Middle East. But me and Ditto, if it gets solved, it's because of us. So then I went in, had it write the information, and it came up with 5 questions. I love that it gives the kids the feedback and the score so they know what the challenge is. And then I wanted to extend it. And so I took it into a question that I submitted to my students for an essay question. And I said, in this assignment, because we looked at Korematsu, we're going to explore the importance of constitutional rights by examining a historical event, the internment of Japanese Americans. Powerful example of how your rights can be threatened and why it's crucial to stand up for them. You will answer questions that help you on the topic. So then it asked them questions, marked them through it. What I love about Class Companion is that it went through and it highlights in the color of the essay of what the problem or the issue is. So like this kid is having problems on punctuation, and it's underlining that in that color. And then it gives them another chance to do it. It lets me know if they're pasting, and I told them that's fine, go ahead and paste, because I wanted them to get the idea. I could care less if they were copying from their previous article. And so that I could go through and see what they had written, see what happened. I had a couple kids who said that they wanted to dispute a response. And so I went ahead and looked at the response, the dispute, and decided that they were right and I needed to change it. And I absolutely love it. And as a matter of fact, I have to tell you, and Class Companion coordinator here, oh my gosh. Okay, Frankie, when he finishes, he goes, Mrs. Hickman, I've got a new best friend. His name is Ditto. And I am not kidding. He was like so excited. And I love the fact that I can see the questions the kids are asking, because I have 6th graders, and I warned them, don't ask anything stupid because I can see what you're asking. I was just hoping I could, and I can't. And it was, I think, phenomenal. I'm just starting today doing News Defender with my kids, and they're going to start playing the News Defender game.
My heart.
And I am so excited because the kids are like, do we get to use Class Companion when we do this? I go, well, yeah, we're going to do it. So it's very well fit together, and I've used it in multiple ways now. So I absolutely am an advocate, and I think we need to get more people involved in this. So that's all I got. Peter, was that what I was supposed to say?
You did great.
Nailed it.
Thank you. I'm sorry I didn't know about the other link. Okay, thanks. Bye.
No, and I want to know where you got that T-shirt, because I work for iCivics and I don't have that T-shirt. I have like 0 brand. I don't even have any business cards in our new brand. Folks, this has been incredible. My cup is so full. These are insights like something that I could not have known just by talking to Avery and Peter and looking at is like how on brand these 2 platforms are. I mean, the fact that students get that excited about Class Companion, I really haven't heard that from anything else. So that makes me so happy. We have so many challenges ahead of us in education. We can only solve them by working together, by leveraging the best of the best in terms of content and in technology and innovation. And most importantly, these brilliant teachers, these early adopters who are just leaning in to make it the best. What I put on the screen here is just something that I cultivated earlier today based on what teachers were sending in, sharing ahead of time, but I'm going to update this with like 20 other things of what I'm hearing and basically what I heard today. And I hope folks learned as much as I did. I learned far more than I expected. I'm so grateful to our hosts, Avery and Peter, and all of Class Companion. Thank you for what you're doing. Thank you for leading the way. Thank you for thinking about iCivics. And I can see that there's a huge overlap of really incredible iCivics educators and Class Companion educators. And my sense is that the overlap of that Venn diagram is just going to get thicker and thicker and bigger and bigger. And I'm so grateful to be here for it. And so I'm going to stop sharing screen and just allow Avery and or Peter to have the closing words. If it weren't for you both, we wouldn't be here today. And so I defer to you.
I will jump in so that Peter can have the final word. I just want to say thank you.
That works.
Yeah, to Emma and Peter for really bringing us together. I feel so grateful to actually have heard the stories from all of our educators today, and realizing that it's beautiful because we all chose to be on these career paths and to be working with these students and to be making this difference. And yeah, I just felt like so much of what we're saying is like we're on the same page about a lot of these ideas and how we're like making this difference in the world. So thank you so much. And Peter, I'll just pass it on to you with that.
40 years of teaching, and I've had all kinds of ed tech come before me in my career. I couldn't be happier to bring two of my favorites and see two of my favorites come together here. For the teachers that are listening to this, to close out, just one suggestion. March 14th, right, Emma? March 14th is International Pi Day. I think, if I have that right, March 4th. What a great day to bring together, or either separately or bring together your math students and your civics students, bring them together, eat pie and play the iCivics game, People's Pie, and then maybe finish it off with a little bit of Class Companion and call it the perfect International Pi Day celebration. My best to all of you. Thank you. Thank you. And Emma, Avery, thank you. We'll close it out there, Emma?
It's way past my bedtime, but I wouldn't have it any other way. Thank you all so much. I've really enjoyed this.
Take care, all. Bye-bye.